Walk into any grocery store in America, from a high-end Whole Foods in Manhattan to a gas station in rural Nebraska, and you will find them. They're always there, perfectly stacked, uniformly yellow, and impossibly cheap. The banana is not just a fruit, it is a permanent fixture of the American landscape. It is the one item that never seems to run out of stock, never fluctuates wildly in price, and never seems to suffer from the changing seasons. To the average shopper, the banana is mundane, a boring staple of the breakfast table. But this normalcy is an illusion. Americans consume over 3 billion pounds of bananas every single year. It is, by a wide margin, the most popular fruit in the country, outselling apples and oranges combined. Yet here lies the great geographical paradox. The continental United States does not grow bananas for commercial sale. The climate is simply too hostile. Every single one of those billions of yellow curves has to be imported. They are aliens to this land, brought here by a supply chain so efficient that it has become effectively invisible to the consumer. Consider the biological absurdity of this situation. The Cavendish banana, the clone we all eat, is a tropical fruit that hates the cold. It requires a specific, humid climate found only around the equator. Furthermore, it is incredibly fragile. Once picked, a banana is a ticking time bomb of ethylene gas, genetically programmed to turn from green starch to brown mush in a matter of days. In a natural setting, a banana should never survive the journey to an American supermarket. It should arrive as a fermented black paste. And yet, not only do they arrive in pristine condition, but they arrive at a price point that defies economic logic. You can buy a pound of bananas for less than the price of a handful of locally grown dirt. How is it possible that a perishable fruit, grown 3,000 miles away in a different hemisphere, transported across an ocean and trucked across a continent, costs less than an apple grown just a few hours away in Washington state? The answer isn't just agriculture, it is a mastery of time manipulation. To understand the banana is to understand the pinnacle of modern logistics. We are not just talking about farming, we are talking about a global machine that operates with military precision. This system has conquered the seasons. It has beaten biology. It involves a coordinated dance of genetic cloning, cryogenic suspension, geopolitical maneuvering, and atmospheric control. The banana you eat today was likely harvested weeks ago, yet it tastes as if it ripened yesterday. This is not nature, this is engineering. For the American consumer, the banana is a guarantee. It is the only fruit that refuses to acknowledge the concept of scarcity. When there is a blizzard in Chicago, there are bananas. When there is a heat wave in Phoenix, there are bananas. This reliability has lulled us into taking it for granted. We peel them, eat them, and discard the skins without a second thought for the monumental effort required to get that potassium-rich snack into our hands. We see the price tag, but we don't see the cost. But if you were to peel back the layers of this industry, you would find a story that spans over a century of innovation and, at times, dark history. The infrastructure required to maintain this continuous flow of fruit is massive. It involves fleets of specialized ships known as reefers, vast ripening cathedrals filled with gas, and a level of quality control that rivals the pharmaceutical industry. The banana trade is a high-stakes game where a single degree of temperature change can destroy millions of dollars in cargo. So, before we take another bite, we need to trace this journey back to the source. We need to leave the fluorescent lights of the American supermarket and travel south, crossing the Caribbean, crossing the Panama Canal, and landing in the volcanic soils of Ecuador. It is here, under the equatorial sun, that the clock starts ticking. It is here that the race against time begins. This is the story of how the world's most fragile fruit conquered the world's most demanding market. Our journey begins in the humid lowlands of Ecuador, specifically in provinces like El Oro and Los Rios. Here, the landscape is dominated by a single color, an endless, vibrating green. From the air, the plantations look like a calm ocean, stretching from the Andes Mountains down to the Pacific coast. But this is not a natural forest. It is a factory without a roof. These are the vast industrial estates that feed the American appetite, producing fruit with a consistency that nature never intended. In this environment, biodiversity is the enemy, uniformity is the god. The banana you know, the one you slice into your cereal, is likely a Cavendish, and here is the unsettling truth. Every single Cavendish banana is a genetic clone of every other Cavendish banana. They are not grown from seeds, they are propagated from cuttings of a single mother plant originally cultivated in an English greenhouse in the 19th century. This genetic monotony is intentional. It ensures that every fruit ripens at the same rate, tastes exactly the same, and fits perfectly into the standard shipping box. It is the ultimate capitalist fruit. However, this uniformity comes at a terrifying biological cost. Because every plant is identical, they have no genetic defense against evolving threats. A single fungus known as Panama Disease tropical race 4 has the potential to wipe out the entire global supply in a matter of years. The industry is effectively betting the house on a single number at the roulette table, hoping the plague doesn't land. Standing in the middle of a plantation, you aren't just looking at agriculture, you are looking at a high-stakes biological wager. Despite the high-tech genetics, the harvest itself remains brutally physical. There are no massive combines or robotic arms here. The terrain is often too muddy or uneven for heavy machinery. Instead, teams of bananeros move through the rows with machetes. One worker cuts the thick stem, while another catches the massive bunch, weighing up to 100 pounds, on a padded shoulder cushion. It is a dance of steel and muscle that hasn't changed much in 100 years. The fruit is heavy, the heat is oppressive, and the pace is relentless. There is one golden rule during the harvest. The fruit must be emerald green. If a banana shows even the slightest hint of yellow, a color break, it is immediately rejected. A yellow banana releases ethylene, the ripening hormone. If a single ripening banana makes it into a shipping container, it will trigger a chain reaction, causing the entire container to ripen and rot before it ever reaches the United States. The exporters are paranoid about color. They aren't just harvesting fruit, they are harvesting time. Once cut, the bunches are hooked onto an overhead cable system, a funicular for fruit that snakes through the plantation, carrying the harvest to the packing shed. At the packing station, the bananas are de-handed, cut from the main stalk, and thrown into massive tanks of water. This isn't just to clean them, it stops the flow of latex. When cut, a banana bleeds a sticky, milky sap that can stain the peel and ruin the aesthetic appeal. The water washes this away, ensuring the fruit remains blemish-free for the American consumer who demands visual perfection. After the bath, the bananas are graded, weighed, and packed. This is where standardization reaches its peak. A standard box of bananas must weigh exactly 40 pounds, 18.14 kilograms, not 39, not 41. They are packed in a specific pattern to maximize airflow and structural integrity. Often they are placed in plastic bags that can be vacuum sealed to further slow down their metabolism. The chaotic organic growth of the tropical plant has now been tamed, measured, and boxed into a unit of global trade. Finally, the boxes are stacked onto pallets and loaded onto trucks, but the clock is ticking faster now. The tropical heat is the enemy. The fruit is still breathing, consuming oxygen and burning its own starch reserves. To survive the journey north, it needs to be put into a state of suspended animation.
As the trucks rumble towards the port of Guayaquil, they are racing towards the cold chain. The biological phase is over. The industrial phase is about to begin. The banana is about to go to sleep.
As the trucks arrive at the bustling port of Guayaquil, the chaotic energy of the plantation is replaced by the clinical precision of international logistics. Here, the humid tropical air is heavy with the smell of diesel and the sea. Thousands of pallets, representing millions of bananas, are staged in massive warehouses. But they cannot stay here long. The ambient temperature of Ecuador, often hovering around 30 degrees Celsius or 86 degrees Fahrenheit, is actively killing the fruit. Every hour spent in this heat accelerates the banana's metabolism, pushing it closer to an early death. The solution to this problem is the reefer, industry shorthand for a refrigerated container. These are not standard steel boxes. They are sophisticated insulated vaults equipped with their own power units and climate control systems. Workers or automated systems load the pallets into these white containers, packing them tightly to ensure uniform airflow. Once the doors are sealed, the refrigeration unit kicks in, humming with a low mechanical drone. The goal is not to freeze the bananas, but to put them into a state of suspended animation. The magic number is 13.3 degrees Celsius, or roughly 56 degrees Fahrenheit. This specific temperature is not a suggestion, it is a law. If the temperature drops below 13 degrees, the banana suffers from chilling injury. The cell walls collapse, the skin turns a dull, lifeless gray, and the fruit never ripens properly. It remains hard and tasteless forever. If the temperature rises above 14 degrees, the enzymes wake up and the ripening process restarts uncontrollably. The margin for error is razor thin. At 13.3 degrees, something miraculous happens. The banana's respiration rate slows down dramatically. The production of ethylene gas drops to near zero. The conversion of starch to sugar halts completely. Essentially, the fruit is placed into a biological coma. It is alive, but barely. This thermal shock stops time, allowing a perishable tropical fruit to survive a journey that would otherwise turn it into compost long before it reached the shelves of a grocery store in Chicago or New York. But temperature is only half the battle. The atmosphere inside the container must also be controlled. Bananas are heavy breathers. They consume oxygen and release carbon dioxide. If the CO2 levels get too high, the fruit suffocates and ferments. Modern reefers often use controlled atmosphere technology, which actively scrubs ethylene from the air and balances the oxygen and CO2 levels to keep the fruit in a deep sleep. It is a life support system designed to trick nature. Before the container is cleared for export, quality control officers perform a final invasive check. They take a metal probe and plunge it deep into the pulp of a random banana. They aren't checking for taste, they are checking the core temperature. The pulp temperature is the only metric that matters. If a single container shows a temperature variance, it is flagged. The risk of loading hot fruit is too high. A single ripening box can act as a catalytic heater, destroying the thermal integrity of the entire shipment. Once cleared, the reefers are moved to the quayside. Towering gantry cranes, looking like prehistoric beasts of steel, lift the 40-foot containers into the air and slot them into the belly of the ship. These vessels are massive, floating power plants, capable of supplying electricity to thousands of reefer units simultaneously. The ship becomes a hive of buzzing compressors, a floating refrigerator carrying enough calories to feed a small nation. As the ship casts off and navigates the muddy waters of the Guayas River towards the open Pacific, the bananas are now officially in transit. They have left the soil of their birth and are now entirely dependent on technology for survival.
For the next 2 weeks, they will float in darkness, suspended in a cold, artificial winter, while the ship charts a course for the United States. The land is behind them, the ocean is ahead, and out on the water, anything can happen. As the coast of South America fades into the horizon, the banana enters a limbo state. For the next 2 weeks, it exists nowhere. It is simply cargo code in a manifest, a blip on a satellite tracker floating somewhere in the vastness of the Pacific or the Caribbean. The ship carrying it is likely a dedicated reefer vessel, distinct from standard container ships by its rows of white power outlets and specialized generators. These ships are floating power plants, burning tons of heavy fuel oil every day just to keep the fruit asleep. On the open ocean, the sun beats down relentlessly on the steel decks. This is why reefer containers are almost exclusively painted white. A dark container would absorb too much solar radiation, forcing the cooling units to work overtime and risking a mechanical failure. The white paint reflects the tropical sun, acting as the first line of defense in the cold chain. It is a simple, passive technology, but without it, the energy costs of transporting bananas would make the fruit prohibitively expensive. Inside the ship's bridge, the crew isn't just navigating waves, they are monitoring data. Modern reefer containers are smart. They transmit real-time telemetry via satellite, temperature, humidity, oxygen levels, and power consumption directly to headquarters in Cincinnati or Charlotte. A logistics manager sitting in an office thousands of miles away can adjust the temperature of a specific container in the middle of the ocean with a few keystrokes. If a unit fails, an alarm screams, and ship engineers must scramble to fix it before the thermal inertia runs out. The route is strategic and inflexible. Ships coming from Ecuador often have to pass through the Panama Canal, one of the world's most critical and expensive maritime choke points. A slot in the canal can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and delays here are catastrophic. A shipment of sneakers can wait a week at anchor, a shipment of bananas cannot. The fruit industry pays a premium for priority passage, treating the canal not as a shortcut, but as a lifeline. Storms and rough seas add another layer of risk. Heavy rolling can damage the fruit inside the boxes, causing bruising that won't show up until the consumer peels the skin weeks later. The captain must balance speed with stability. Go too fast in rough water and you damage the cargo physically. Go too slow and you risk the cargo biologically. It is a constant negotiation with the elements, where the penalty for failure is a cargo hold full of rotting, unsellable compost. Finally, the U.S. coastline appears. The ships don't just dock anywhere. They head for specialized hubs like Port Hueneme in California, Wilmington in Delaware, or Philadelphia. These are the banana capitals of America. Unlike the chaotic mixed cargo ports of Los Angeles or Newark, these terminals are purpose-built for speed and refrigeration. The air here smells faintly sweet and organic. The cranes move with a sense of urgency that you don't see with containers of electronics or furniture. As the containers are offloaded, they are met by a formidable welcoming committee, United States Customs and Border Protection, and the USDA. Bananas are a high-risk cargo. Their dense organic matter blocks X-rays effectively, making them a favorite hiding spot for smugglers moving narcotics. But the USDA is looking for something smaller: invasive pests. A single exotic fruit fly or a speck of soil can trigger a quarantine that shuts down the entire port. The inspection is rigorous, invasive, and non-negotiable. Once the seal is broken and the green clearance is given, the containers are hustled away from the humid port air. They are plugged back into power at the terminal yard or loaded directly onto genset trucks, chassis equipped with their own generators to keep the cooling running on the highway. The ocean leg is over, but the journey is far from finished. The banana is now on American soil, but it is still green, hard, and asleep. It needs to be woken up. From the port, the bananas are not sent to supermarkets. If you saw them now, you wouldn't recognize them as food. They are rock hard, bright green, and taste like raw potato or bitter wood. Instead, they are trucked to massive, windowless distribution centers located just outside major metropolitan areas. These facilities are the ripening centers, the secret laboratories of the fruit industry. Here, the cold chain is carefully broken and the suspended animation is reversed.
Inside these centers, the pallets are loaded into specialized airtight vaults known as pressurized ripening rooms. These aren't just storage lockers, they are precision instruments. The doors seal with a heavy thud, isolating the fruit from the outside world. The room's computer system takes over, raising the temperature from the sleep-inducing 13.3 degrees Celsius to a balmy 18 degrees Celsius, 64 degrees Fahrenheit. The banana senses the heat, its metabolism kicks back into gear. It thinks it is back in the tropics. But heat alone isn't enough to guarantee uniform ripening. In nature, bananas ripen chaotically. One side might turn yellow while the other remains green. To solve this, the industry uses a trigger. A catalytic generator pumps a specific gas into the sealed room. This gas is ethylene, C2H4. It is a synthetic version of the exact same hormone the fruit produces naturally, but here it is applied in a concentrated, calculated dose. This is biological deception on an industrial scale. The ethylene floods the room, penetrating the skin of every single banana simultaneously. It signals the fruit cells to begin a rapid, irreversible chemical transformation. The banana panics, biologically speaking. It rushes to mature its seeds, which are sterile in the Cavendish variety, and sweeten its flesh to attract animals that don't exist in a warehouse in New Jersey. Over the next 24 to 48 hours, a dramatic change occurs in the dark. The chlorophyll in the peel, the pigment that makes it green, begins to break down, revealing the yellow carotenes underneath. Deep inside the pulp, enzymes attack the long chains of starch, chopping them up into simple sugars like sucrose and fructose. The fruit softens, the bitterness vanishes, the aroma of banana finally begins to emerge.
The ripeners, the actual job title of the experts who run these rooms, monitor this process with the intensity of a bomb disposal unit. They use a strict 7-stage color chart known as the von Low-Secca scale. Stage 1 is all green. Stage 7 is yellow with brown sugar spots. Most retailers demand bananas delivered exactly at stage 3.5, mostly yellow with green tips. This precise stage ensures the fruit looks good on the shelf, but won't turn brown before a customer can buy it. The timing must be perfect. If the bananas are gassed too early or too late, they might look yellow on the outside but remain hard on the inside, a defect known as green ripeness. Or worse, they might turn gray and dull if the temperature fluctuates during the gassing. The ripener essentially plays God with the fruit's life cycle, compressing weeks of natural biology into a few days of chemical engineering. Once the desired color stage is hit, the room is vented. The ethylene is flushed out, and the temperature is dropped rapidly back down to 14 degrees Celsius to lock in the color. The process is halted just before perfection. The bananas are awake, sweet, and yellow, but they are also dying faster than ever. The doors open and the pallets are rushed to the loading dock. The final race to the grocery store shelf has begun.
The moment the doors of the ripening center open, the biological timer that was paused in Ecuador resumes with a vengeance. The bananas are now live. They are loaded onto refrigerated trucks, but the temperature is set slightly higher now, around 56-58 degrees Fahrenheit, to prevent thermal shock. This is the last mile. In the logistics world, this is the most expensive and critical leg of the journey. The fruit is now racing against its own sugar content. Every hour on the highway is an hour closer to brown spots. When they arrive at the grocery store, they are not just stocked anywhere. Have you ever noticed that bananas are almost always located right at the entrance of the produce section? This is no accident. It is a calculated psychological anchor. Supermarkets use bananas as a loss leader. They often sell them at cost or even at a slight loss to get you in the door. The logic is simple. If you see cheap, high-quality bananas, your brain assumes the rest of the store is reasonably priced. This placement also serves a health halo effect. By forcing you to walk past the bright yellow, healthy fruit first, you feel virtuous. You put a bunch in your cart, subconsciously giving yourself permission to buy the frozen pizza and chips in aisle 4. The banana is the gatekeeper of the American diet. It is the most frequently purchased item in the entire store, a visual beacon of freshness that retailers manipulate to drive sales of higher-margin processed foods. But the American consumer is ruthless when it comes to aesthetics. We demand cosmetic perfection. A banana with a slight curve in the wrong direction, a small scar from a leaf rub, or a single brown spot is often rejected. Grocery stores know this. They cull millions of pounds of perfectly edible fruit simply because it doesn't meet the visual standard.
The waste at the retail level is staggering. The supply chain is so efficient at moving fruit, but the consumer is incredibly inefficient at accepting nature's imperfections. Then there is the price. At 59 cents a pound, or often much less, bananas are an economic anomaly. They are cheaper than apples grown in Washington or oranges from Florida. How is a fruit shipped 3,000 miles cheaper than one grown in the same time zone? The answer lies in economies of scale. The banana industry moves such massive volumes, hundreds of millions of boxes, that the cost per unit drops to fractions of a cent. It is the Walmart model applied to biology. However, this low price traps the industry in a vicious cycle. Because the margins are razor thin, producers must sell massive quantities to make a profit. They cannot afford to slow down. The ships must be full, the containers must be full, the ripening rooms must be full. If demand drops even slightly, the system clogs up and prices collapse. It is a volume game where the only way to win is to keep the machine running at maximum capacity forever. This relentless drive for low prices has stripped the banana of its value. We don't treat it like a tropical exotic. We treat it like a utility, like tap water or electricity. We expect it to be there, always. We have forgotten that it is a seasonal fruit that belongs to the tropics. The supply chain has been so successful that it has erased the concept of seasonality from our collective consciousness. We have conquered geography to save a few cents at the checkout counter. But cheap food always comes with a hidden cost. If the consumer isn't paying the true price of the banana, someone else is. The efficiency we marvel at, the ships, the cold chain, the ripening rooms, is built on a foundation that is often shaky and ethically complex. To understand the true cost of that 19-cent banana, we have to look at what was sacrificed to make the system possible. We have to look at the history of the banana republics.
To truly understand the modern banana supply chain, we must look at the ghosts in the machine. The logistical miracle we witness today, the seamless flow of fruit from the tropics to your table, was not built on cooperation. It was built on conquest. In the early 20th century, powerful American corporations like the United Fruit Company, now Chiquita, didn't just buy fruit, they bought entire countries. They carved out vast swaths of jungle in Central America, creating their own laws, their own police forces, and their own infrastructure. This era gave birth to the term Banana Republic. It wasn't just a pejorative nickname, it described a terrifying economic reality. These were nations where the government was subservient to foreign fruit companies, where the economy was entirely dependent on a single export, and where labor strikes were often met with military force. The infrastructure we marvel at today, the railways cutting through the Honduran jungle, the deep water ports in Guatemala, was built not to connect people, but to extract resources. The legacy of this green gold rush is still embedded in the logistics. The railways were designed with a single gauge, the width of a banana train. The towns were built as company towns, with housing, schools, and hospitals owned by the corporation. For decades, the banana was more than a fruit. It was a geopolitical weapon. The cheap price Americans paid at the grocery store was subsidized by the political instability of an entire region. Today, the overt political control has faded, but the economic pressure remains. The race to the bottom for the cheapest possible banana forces producers to cut corners. To maintain the cosmetic perfection demanded by U.S. supermarkets, plantations rely on an intense chemical regimen. Aerial crop dusters fly over the fields almost daily, spraying fungicides to keep the leaves green and the fruit blemish-free. It is one of the most pesticide-intensive crops in the world.
This chemical warfare is necessary because of the monoculture we discussed in Chapter 2. Because every Cavendish banana is a clone, nature is constantly trying to kill it. In a diverse forest, pests spread slowly. In a monoculture plantation, they spread like wildfire. To keep the supply chain moving, the industry is locked in an endless arms race against nature, using stronger and stronger chemicals just to maintain the status quo. The human cost is often hidden behind the fair trade stickers. While conditions have improved significantly since the bad old days, the profit margins for the actual farmers remain razor thin. Of the 19 cents you pay for a banana, only a tiny fraction, often less than a penny, goes to the worker who cut it. The vast majority of the value is captured by the logistics, the shipping lines, the ripening centers, and the retailers. The system is designed to squeeze value out of the supply chain, not to distribute it. Furthermore, this obsession with efficiency has created a dangerous fragility. By relying on a single genetic variety grown in massive concentrated regions, we have created a buffet for disease. The Panama Disease, TR4, is currently marching across the globe, destroying plantations in Asia, Africa, and now South America. The industry knows that the Cavendish is living on borrowed time. The very system built to deliver cheap fruit is the same system that makes the fruit vulnerable to extinction. So, as we look at that perfect yellow kerm on the counter, we see a paradox. It is a triumph of engineering and a failure of sustainability. It is a symbol of global trade that connects us to the tropics, yet isolates us from the reality of its production. The machine is running perfectly, but the engine is overheating. We have mastered the logistics of the banana, but we may have forgotten the value of the fruit itself.
We have traced the banana's journey across oceans and continents. We have seen the cold chain technology that pauses time, the ethylene gas chambers that restart it, and the economic machinery that keeps the price impossibly low. It is a system of staggering complexity designed to deliver a single product, the perfect yellow Cavendish. But this entire global infrastructure is built on a biological house of cards. The banana industry is currently standing on a precipice, staring down the barrel of an extinction event. The threat has a name: Tropical Race 4, TR4, a soil-borne fungus that is immune to all known fungicides. It enters the plant through the roots, clogs the vascular system, and starves the fruit of water. The plant simply wilts and dies. Because every Cavendish banana is a genetic clone, they have zero resistance. If the fungus kills one plant, it can kill them all. It has already decimated plantations in Asia, Africa, and Australia. And in 2019, it was officially detected in Colombia, the heart of the American supply chain. History is repeating itself. In the 1950s, the world ate a different banana, the Gros Michel. It was bigger, tastier, and tougher than the Cavendish. But a previous strain of Panama disease wiped it out globally. The industry scrambled and found the Cavendish, a smaller, blander variety that happened to be resistant to that specific strain. We swapped one clone for another and rebuilt the entire global logistics network around it. We bought ourselves 50 years of time, but now that time is up. Scientists are racing against the clock to find a replacement. In secure laboratories, geneticists are using CRISPR technology to edit the banana's DNA, trying to insert resistance genes from wild varieties found in the jungles of Southeast Asia. But this raises a new problem. Will the American consumer, who is terrified of GMOs, accept a genetically modified fruit? The industry is terrified that the answer is no. Other researchers are looking for natural hybrids, like the Goldfinger banana. But these alternatives have problems. Some taste like apples, others have a texture like rubber. More importantly, they don't fit the logistics. They might ripen too fast for the 14-day sea voyage, or bruise too easily for the automated packing lines. The entire global supply chain, the ships, the boxes, the ripening rooms, is calibrated for the Cavendish. Changing the banana means rebuilding the machine from scratch. So, the era of the cheap banana may be coming to an end. As TR4 spreads, production will become more difficult and expensive. Quarantine measures will tighten. Yields will drop. The days of the 19-cent pound are likely numbered. We may soon see bananas priced like avocados or mangoes, luxury items rather than staples. The loss leader strategy will vanish, and with it, the ubiquity of the fruit in the American diet. The next time you walk into a grocery store and see that pyramid of yellow fruit, take a moment to really look at it. You are not just looking at a snack, you are looking at a survivor. You are looking at a traveler that has crossed the equator, slept in a suspended animation chamber, and been resurrected by gas. It is a biological marvel and a logistical triumph, but it is also a fleeting ghost. The banana as we know it is living on borrowed time. In the end, the story of the banana is the story of us. It reflects our incredible ingenuity in conquering nature,
but also our dangerous arrogance in thinking we can control it forever. We built a global empire on a single fragile clone, and now nature is coming to collect the debt. Enjoy that banana with your breakfast tomorrow. It might just be the most complicated, perilous, and miraculous thing you will eat all day.